Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I thought today we would mix it up a little bit and I'm going to give you 10 of the baby names that I personally love but we will not be using. I've seen this done by some of my other favorite YouTubers and I actually purposely didn't watch their videos because I didn't want to subconsciously take their name. So all of these names are names that I actually love, and if somebody else happens to love them too, then that's great. But I have 5 girl names and 5 boy names, and my husband and I have 4 children and we are all done having kids. He kind of wanted 2 kids and I kind of wanted 4, and he compromised a little bit, but we do have 2 girls and we have 2 boys. So I'm gonna start off first by telling you what we named our children and a little bit of the reasoning behind it. I love to look up name meanings. I mean, sometimes we just named our kids a name because we liked it, but I also think it's super interesting to see the meaning behind the word. So I did write down the meanings of my kids' names because I had forgotten a couple of them, and I actually wrote down the meanings of the 10 names I'm going to tell you, just because sometimes it's good to make sure your kid's name doesn't mean like rocks or something. Although it wouldn't be that bad, but it's just kind of good to know the meaning behind. So my oldest daughter, who's about to be 8, her name is Ava Reese, and honestly, we just fell in love with the name Ava. There wasn't any one person or anything like that. We just loved the name, and I remember we decided it, Mark and I did, when we were sitting in Cece's Pizza, which I miss. We don't have those anymore. And we were sitting there and we were just like, you know what, this is the name, like this is gonna be her name. And it's so funny now because I know it happens to every baby, but she's about to be 8 and she just looks like an Ava. There's no other name she could be. It fits her so perfectly. And that name actually means bird. And then her middle name is Reese. Again, we just loved the name. We heard, and I actually do love Reese Witherspoon as an actress too. That wasn't the full meaning behind it, but and that name means fiery, which can definitely fit her personality sometimes. Now, not so much as a baby. She was like our trick baby who slept through the night, like basically coming home from the hospital, and made us feel like we were the best parents in the world and that we should have 8 million children because we just totally have everything handled. And then we had more. Each kid that we had, we realized we don't know what we're doing. So and then we had our second kid, which was our daughter, and we call her Kate, but her name is Catherine Adele. Catherine's with a K, and Catherine means pure and clear, and Adele means noble, kind, and tender, which honestly that name could not fit Kate better. She is so tender-hearted and so sweet, which we obviously couldn't have known when she was a baby, but now looking back, it's like I'm so happy that's her middle name. Again, we just love the name. I do love Adele the singer. What's so funny is when I worked at Chick-fil-A in the drive-thru, I worked there when I was pregnant with Ava. I worked at Chick-fil-A for 10 years, and I got told by several people coming through the drive-thru that I looked like Adele, and I don't feel like I look like Adele. I think she's beautiful. I just don't feel like we look anything alike. So maybe that name was actually subconsciously in my mind. I don't know. I just think it's a beautiful name and it fits her perfectly. But we do call her Kate daily. We just don't. Actually, a lot of times we do still call her Catherine, and sometimes to be silly we call her Kathy, which I'm not making fun of that name, but it's like Kathy's not a name that you would name like a 5-year-old because she's 5. But she responds to Kathy. It's just kind of a joke around here. And then we had our son. We had picked out his name about halfway through the pregnancy, I think. And again, there was no meaning behind this name except we just loved it. And what's so funny is when he was born, it was like automatically fitting to him because he was almost 9.5 pounds. He was a big baby, my biggest baby, and we named him Max. That's his first name, and that means greatest. And then his middle name is Thomas, which means twin, which he was not a twin, but Thomas is also a disciple in the Bible, and we just love the name Thomas and how the names fit together, Max Thomas. And then our fourth child, Bo, again, we just realized we loved the name Bo, and so we went with it. We had a really hard time coming up with a fourth baby name, just because you feel like you've kind of like used all your favorite options up front. But the more we talked over Bo, the more we liked it. But I'll tell you, we had the hardest time coming up with his middle name. We went through, like, we Googled names and we went through all these names, and just nothing was working for his middle name. So we ended up trying to go back to maybe using a family name, and then we went through all the family names, and even those weren't really working. But then we did find a family name that we liked, and it is Mark's grandfather's last name and his mom's maiden name, and that's Chancellor, and it means an administrative official. We didn't really care about the meaning behind the name. It was more just that it was a family name. So his name is Bo Chancellor. But let's jump right into the 10 names, and I'm gonna start with the boy names. Okay, now you might have your own opinions of these names, and I totally get it. You might hear the names and be like, disgusting, why would she like that name? I personally love them. It won't be everyone's cup of tea. Honestly, it wouldn't even be my husband's cup of tea. That's why I'm giving them to y'all, because maybe you'll hear them and be like, oh, that's the perfect name, I love it. My husband and I picking names along the way, I definitely had names that I loved and he had names he loved, and it was hard to come together really and pick a name, especially the more children you have. But so these are my top 5 boy names that I would use personally. Oh my goodness, I don't have my wedding ring on. That feels weird, but I need to put it back on. That I would use personally if I were to have more children, which we won't be having more children because we had that situation fixed. But okay, number 1 is Roman. I love that name. I've actually heard other boys named Rowan before, R-O-W-A-N, and I love that name too. I just think it sounds so like, it just sounds like a great name. I just love it. And Mark was kind of on board with that name, but we ran into the issue of our last name is Thornton, and Roman Thornton, like having the same syllables, and knowing he's a boy, so this last name is going to carry with him forever. It just didn't quite sound right. So we passed up on any names that ended in O-N or A-N or E-N or anything like that. So I love the name Roman, and it means a man of culture. So take that as you will. And number 2, I love the name Lincoln. Again, it's a name that kind of clashes with Thornton, but I just think it's such a cute name. I would totally use it if we didn't have the last name ending in O-N, and it means lake or pool. And number 3, we have some very sweet friends that have a son named this, and I have loved it since the second I heard it. Obviously, we never would have copied them, but it is so, I just love it. His name is Noble, and he looks like a noble. He's so adorable, but I just love that name. I think it's super cute. And that name means distinguished, so that's a pretty cool name meaning. And then number 4, again, it has the A-N ending, so we couldn't really use it with Thornton, but I love the name Declan. I think that was a character in a show we watched recently, but I can't remember. Oh, maybe Revenge. I think it was Revenge. And I heard the name and I was like, I really like that name. I think it might be becoming more popular though, so I know people don't love popular names sometimes, but I think it's a great name for a boy. And that means, oh, and actually I love the meaning of this name. It's man of prayer and full of goodness. I mean, you can't have a much better meaning of a name than that. And then the last name, number 5 on the boys list, I think this can actually be a girl's or a boy's name, so that's kind of tough for me, just because I wouldn't want anybody to think my boy was a girl, my girl was a boy. I don't know, but I love the name Finn for a boy. Wasn't that the guy's name on Glee? I want to say it was. I'm sorry for all you Glee super fans who are like, duh, or no, but I think it was, or maybe, is that his name in real life? I don't know. I'm like confusing things, but I really like that name and it means fair. So those are the boy names that I love that we obviously will not be using. So let's move on to the girls' names. Okay, and I actually realized that I just wrote down 6 names, so y'all get a bonus name. My like #1 favorite name, which if I could go back and like extend Ava's name, I would almost like sneakily try to do that, but that can't happen. And I think it comes from my love of the movies Anne of Green Gables and Anne of Avonlea. Have y'all ever seen those movies? I mean, they just like, they're just right down my alley. I love, love, love those movies. They're long, so it's a time investment, but they're just the best movies. But my #1 girl name I would use now, if I could, is Avonlea. I know it sounds a little bit different, but I just think it is so beautiful, and it means river by a field, and I feel like it could go with so many different middle names. It's just beautiful. And #2, this name actually would kind of be a family name. I think that when Mark and I ended up talking about this name, we had already had 2 girls, and so the next 2 kids were boys and we couldn't use it. But my grandmother's name was Mildred, and I don't think we really would have wanted to use the name Mildred, even though I know it's a family name, but she was called Millie, and I think that that is so adorable. And so I think honestly, if I could have more girls, I would love the name Millie for a girl. It means mild of strength, but then so I was kind of like, mild of strength, but then I looked up Mildred, which is probably what we would have named the girl and called her Millie, and this makes more sense. Mildred means gentle strength, which I think is so perfect. And then #3, I love this name. I think it could be used for a boy or a girl, but I definitely see it more for a girl, and it's the name Quinn. And Quinn means wisdom and intelligence, which is a great meaning for a name too. And I just think the name Quinn is really, really cute and could go with a lot of last names, which helps too. I mean, I know one day they might change their last name, but for like 22 years at least, they're gonna have that last name. So you always kind of want it to go together a little bit. And then #4, I love the name Hazel. I think I've loved this name for a long time, but then I also follow some YouTubers who have quintuplets. I'm pretty sure it's quintuplets. And one of their little girls' names is Hazel, and she's so adorable, and I think that just helped me love the name Hazel even more. I think it's unique, and I think it is becoming more popular now, but I still just love it so much that I would definitely use it. And it actually just means hazel, so there's not really like a meaning behind it, but I love it and I would use it. And then I absolutely love the name Willow. Now this is a name my husband probably would never get on board with, but because it's kind of like trendy sounding maybe, I don't know, but I think it's super pretty, and I think you could come up with a really pretty middle name for it, and it means slender and graceful, so those are good name meanings right there. So those are my 5, and then I had another one. Oh, this one's a little bit different, but I've actually known a couple people name this, and I ran it by Mark, I think, before we were ever pregnant with girls, and he was like, nah. But the name Lyric, I think it's really pretty, and it doesn't mean, I think it just means lyric because it is like the meaning, but it's just a really pretty name that I feel like could go with a lot of names too. So those are actually 6 options there for you. And I just did this video because, first of all, who doesn't love people who are pregnant? And when you have a baby on the way, you're constantly doing research like about what to buy, what to name your baby. And I know I would have loved watching these videos when I was pregnant. I didn't really do a whole lot of YouTube research like when I was pregnant with my babies. I feel like I've done it more lately since they've been born, but I just love how there's so much accessibility to all this knowledge out there and all these facts that people have and can share, and we can all share together. And you know, some names aren't for you and some names aren't for me, and that's just how life goes. But you never know, somebody could be watching this and say, hey, that's a really cool name that I have never thought of before and I might want to use it, so it might be helpful to that one person. But I am so glad that y'all have watched this video today. I know it's a little bit different than the videos I've done in the past, and I am so excited about this year and the growth on my channel so far. You guys have been amazing. I have a lot of exciting things in store, have a lot of fun videos coming up. So if you guys haven't subscribed yet, I would love it if you would hit the subscribe button and the notification bell next to it. And I would love for y'all to interact with me on my videos, to comment, let me know you're here. I love that. I love having the back and forth between all of y'all. And so I'm just very, very thankful for each and every one of you. And I will see y'all in my next video, and I hope y'all have the best day. Bye.